What book made you fall in love with reading?
The Boxcar Children.
Me too, I still have all my Boxcar Children books and I plan on sharing them with my kids when I have them.
This makes me happy.
Magic Tree House.
Holy shit dude, I haven't read those since I was in 5th grade. They were the only chapter books I enjoyed reading. I'm surprised how far down this was. Those books were my favorite as a kid and I know others felt that way as well.
Matilda by Roald Dahl.
Dude, Roald Dahl had tons of great books. Forgot all about him.
Right? Matilda isn't even my favorite. It's Danny the Champion of the World. I completely fell in love with his work in the 3rd grade. They're like a magical world to escape to.
The Hobbit. My teacher had the class read it in middle school circa 1981. Still reread Tolkien all these years later.
The book is just better than the movies in every way.
I actually just finished reading The Hobbit for the first time today. Excited to get started on the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Hatchet, Gary Powelson. Was in grade 5 or 6. I had always read books but this was my first grown-uppish book that I loved.
I read this book over and over when I was that age.
Me too. Also the sequel The River was pretty good. I actually just reread The Hatchet last year and was shocked at how short it was. When you're young it feels like a much longer read long.
The Giver definitely changed my perspective on a lot of things.
I loved that book. I think it was that first book I read where you suddenly stop and go, whoa.
I read that in my literary class in 8th grade. I hated how vague the ending was. I also kept saying it Jonas lived in a cult. This was after the Heaven's Gate people committed suicide.
Early 1970s, The Phantom Tollbooth. I truly loved that book.
I had to read this book in school, in a textbook. The cover looked so stupid, and I thought for sure I would hate it, but I liked it a lot.
Little House on the Prairie. It was the first real series one read when I was 5. Kicked off a serious book obsession. 13 years later, books are still one of my main hobbies.
+1 for the Little House series. Still one of my all-time favorite series. It was a series one started immediately after I was finished with the first 4 Harry Potter books, and I've reread them at least a dozen times. Which reminds me, I'm due for another reread.
I'm in the same boat. I was so proud to read a chapter book, and even lived in the words at the time. It sparked so much for me. This franchise is so good. It's got its issues, sure, but overall, I think it's a fun and clever modernization of the Greek pantheon.
I did kinda expect that one bit about Nico. I'm actually the same as him, but my dad isn't a god, but mom is insane.
Spoilers. I never got to read The Heroes of Olympus. My parents threw out the books when they realized Nico was gay. It was like 7 years ago and I'm still pissed lol.
Lord of the Rings. I was in 3rd or 4th grade one think and I learned that my sister had read it around that age, so therefore I wanted to. Up until that point I'd been behind in reading because I just wasn't interested in the little kid stuff, but this hooked me. I probably didn't understand a lot of the words, but I still got through it and have reread it many times since.
Wow. That's a hard book for 4th grade. The Hobbit is a bit easier.